The opportunity to fly in a B-29, one of only 2 in the world that can fly, comes rarely. Add to that a seat in the very front with the window festoon nose, the Bombardier's perfect perch, and nothing could have stopped me from accepting. This B-29 is the Commemorative Air Force's FIFI, which is under the care of the CAF B-29 B-24 Squadron at Dallas Executive Airport in Texas, also home to B-24 Diamond Lil. I was able to join FIFI's crew during a relatively short hop from Kankakee, Illinois to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. This leg was flown by Captain Allen Benzing, co-pilot Jeff Skiles, also one of the pilots in the Miracle on the Hudson A320 ditching, and flight engineer and senior crew chief Rick Garvis. FIFI is operated with a crew of 12, which includes ground support, ride and tour sales, and in-flight positions such as the rear, left, and right scanners, and of course the pilots and flight engineer. On the takeoff roll, FIFI accelerated fairly slowly once the engines were set to takeoff power, roughly 40 inches of manifold pressure. Once power reaches about 30 inches, Benzing turns the throttles over to flight engineer Garvis to set maximum power. There is no need to pull the control wheel aft to rotate the nose up on takeoff, Benzing said, and the B-29 simply flies smoothly off the runway. Once aloft, we climbed just over a couple of thousand feet to stay below a scattered to broken cloud layer, rumbling over the emerald green Illinois and Wisconsin countryside. I was surprised at how smoothly the B-29 flies, with absolutely zero vibration from the big Wright 18-cylinder R3350 radial engines. During the flight, the nose's many window panes flooded the compartment with light, and it felt a bit like flying in an isolated bubble, except for the overt reminders of the nature of this airplane, from the gun sight on the right side and the Norden bomb sight pinned in place in the center. An indicator shows the status of the up to 20,000 pounds of bombs that the B-29 could carry. Skiles flew most of the flight. Then as we neared Oshkosh, Benzing took the controls and steered FIFI towards runway 36. We flew a high pass over the runway, then broke to the right and returned for landing. Benzing brought the B-29 down final at a relatively shallow angle with plenty of power, then gradually reduced power as the B-29 crossed the end of the runway and gently descended to the pavement. Once near the runway, he skillfully touched the upwind wheel slightly ahead of the other main wheel, then let the nose down gently a moment later for an incredibly smooth landing and straight-ahead rollout. We easily made the turnoff at taxiway P2 and trundled into the entrance to Boeing Plaza where a crowd awaited FIFI's arrival. I've known Allen Benzing for many years, and he enjoys training in and flying FIFI. I sat down with him to learn more about what it's like to fly such an iconic airplane.
So today we had the honor of flying the B-29 Superfortress. It's a unique airplane in a lot of ways. It's built by Boeing, and in some respects it's similar to the newer Boeings. I used to fly 757s, and when you're cruising along, it's got a good ride and all. However, the flight controls are all manual, cable-driven, and at slower speeds, it is not at all responsive. So you really do need to plan. You use a lot of rudder with the aileron, a lot of aileron for the amount of turn that you normally would, and you're mindful of keeping your speed up for your turns on base and final and so forth. And quite a bit of drag when you have full flaps out, so again, keeping your power up where you need it. And when you come into the flare and ease the power off, bring the nose up a little, you know that it's going to lead the speed off.
How fast do you come in on final over the fence?
125 miles an hour is what I normally use. It could be a few knots less than that at lighter weights. If you're any less than that, though, if you get a little sink rate going, you're not going to pick it up. And again, the flaps are pretty effective, so as soon as you raise the pitch a little bit, you're going to bleed it off. So if you're bringing the power off, if you hold the power on, that's a different deal, but not recommended.
So it's like a big airplane, you have to plan ahead.
You definitely have to plan ahead because you're not going to be able to make any last-minute corrections. It's just not going to happen.
So how does it handle on the ground?
That's probably as much of a challenge because you have no nose wheel steering. The brakes are rather grabby. Strategically, you can set power, asymmetric power. If you have a crosswind, for example, and you have a long way to go with that certain wind, that helps some. But basically, you're tapping on the brakes, and they're the expander tube type brakes, so they're not really responsive, and when they do catch, they catch. But it's like anything else. You do it for a while, and then you learn how to finesse it a bit and make it look easy, even if you're paddling pretty hard below the waterline.
So how long have you been flying the B-29?
2 years in the left seat, another year in the right, I think it was, about 3 years now. And I flew the B-24 for a couple of years prior to that, which was, although they're dissimilar, you learn a lot about radial engines, old airplanes, and heavy controls. So there's some things to learn.
So are these engines sensitive? Do you need to baby them, or?
Absolutely do. They have the limitations that you'll read in the manual, which you certainly need to honor, but over and above that, you just need to be slow on power changes because temperature changes are what hurt. And you can't exceed boost, overboost them, and you can't go under square with them because that affects the lubrication of them. So you've got to be mindful of what works and what you're allowed to do and plan so that you don't have to exceed those.
And how important is a flight engineer in this airplane?
Well, actually, we could not obviously do it without him, but he does everything. Besides working on the airplane, making sure it's ready to go, which is no small feat, gas and oil, does the pre-flight, does the weight and balance, gets in here and does the pre-oil and engine start, and operates everything while we're going. We're just talking on the microphone, and he's listening on the intercom and making the changes per our request. So it's very much a flight engineer aircraft, more so than anyone that I'm aware of.
So in your career of flying and after your airline job, is this one of the most fun things you've been doing?
I would say it's definitely a highlight, and most fun, yes, because it's both challenging, rewarding, it's an honor. It's a very rare seat to sit in, and when I'm not on tour and I see others out flying it, you just have that feeling, hey, I need to be getting out there, I need to get involved, I need to be flying that baby. So,
what is it like when you meet up with somebody from World War II and this is bringing back memories for them?
That's really that really gets to you because you know that they did this under really harsh conditions, and their lives were on the line, and not just once, but they go out and fly a very, very tough mission where their odds of getting shot up or shot down were high. And then a few days later, they have to go do it again and again. Until the war is won, their lives are on the line, and they're watching their squadron mates get shot down and so on. So I have just the ultimate respect for the crews that flew, any of the veterans that fought in the war, obviously. The crews that flew these things were brave men, and I respect them a great deal.
The flight was an amazing experience, one of the highlights of my career. And I'm grateful to FIFI's dedicated crew and the entire CAF B-29, B-24 squadron.
If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe to our channel. Also, visit AINonline.com and check out our e-newsletters for all the latest on the aviation industry.